For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, Assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. Matthew 25, 35 to 40. Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry. It's a pleasure to be here with you again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. I hope you had a great week. And this week, I'm going to have a quick conversation with you about a life of service and what serving really means and the difference it can make in our lives. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back. So welcome back to 247 Real Talk podcast. Again, I'm your host, Julian Perry. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again for another weekly episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. I hope you guys had a great week. I'm in New York. As I look at the cameras, I still see a lot of the snow that I had to shovel on the ground. Right now, it is 9:26, Wednesday, February 12th, and it is flurrying outside. It is not sticking, but I was up at 4 a.m. this morning shoveling snow, so I could get out of my driveway and down the steps to the front of my home and proceed with my day. We've gotten sort of spoiled in New York. You know, we haven't had that kind of weather for several years, and now this week alone, we've had two storms already, not counting the one tonight and the one that's coming on Saturday. So while some are bigger than others, I guess this year and this month is making up for all the years that we enjoyed less than an inch or an inch of snow for the entire winter season. I hope you had a great week. I welcome you all. Thank you for your support. All my existing subscribers and the very few new subscribers. We're not attracting tons of new subscribers like we usually do, but that's okay because I understand this business, I understand the climate, and I understand where we are in the world today. Update on my knee is getting stronger. I am doing those leg raises in a sitting position where I can do it with 10 pounds strapped to my ankle now. So I'm getting there, still stiff, still limp when I walk, still sometimes gets too difficult for me to really walk much, but I am thankful that each day is a little better. A lot of work, a lot of recovery. It's a long road, but I'm getting there. I thank all of you for your continued messages of encouragement. And for all of you who reach out to me on so many different subjects, it's amazing that I get so much correspondence and so much conversation during each week between episodes as we discuss the obvious matters at hand and some that are not so obvious. I want to talk a little bit to you, not long this week, about living a life of service. You know, I started this podcast in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, recognizing the need to comfort, the need to give back, the need to have conversations, the need to help people. And at that time, the help I could offer, since I had COVID, I had COVID myself and was, under that long, 9 month recovery for me, or even beyond that, I realized that there are a lot of people out there who needed to talk. A lot of people out there who were struggling with the loss of loved ones, sometimes one loved one, sometimes multiple loved ones. Recognize the needs for people who lost their jobs, their income because of industries that shut down. Recognizing the need for people who were simply dealing with the mental stress of being drawn and hypnotized by this media and watching our governor, especially here in New York, hold press conferences each day and announce anywhere between 800 and 1,000 deaths per day. The infrequent drives to go places, maybe to get supplies or whatever was available, and to see the 18-wheelers as we passed the different hospitals, knowing that those 18-wheelers were refrigerated 18-wheelers filled with bodies, so many bodies per day that they couldn't even bother to identify them or toe tag some of them. They just wrapped them up and threw them in the 18-wheeler refrigerated trucks because they were out of storage. Talking to my wife who was working at a hospital, I won't name that hospital at the time, and hearing her come home and I think they called it cold blue. I think she said cold blue, but just hearing the calls for, continuously, as fast as one call, there was another call, and the people were just dying that rapidly with nothing, even her as a medical professional, nothing they could do to help these people. I fast forward to today, what the world looks like, what the United States looks like, how we've allowed politics and politicians and political ideology to divide households, to pit one side of families against another, to change what our tables or dining tables look like in a holiday, meaning who's in attendance, to create empty chairs at our tables because people are brothers and sisters and others are not speaking to each other, all over this ignorance of political ideology. To look at what has transpired over the last few months and how our country seems to be in chaos and fear. To look at how so far Washington has won because they've managed to accomplish exactly what they set out to do, and that is divide the population, almost evenly divided. The results of the recent presidential elections, where one candidate got 49 point something percent and one 48 point something, tells you how evenly divided almost this nation is against each other. To watch as our country, our structures, our systems of law and order and stability are being challenged, whether being challenged in a good way or in a bad way. So don't jump up and get on your high horse and start coming at me, because everyone who knows me knows again that I try to be independent and I try to pick my words carefully, because I do not want to be a part of divisiveness. If I had to declare anything, I would declare that I am pro-DEI. People hear the word DEI and immediately follow the rhetoric of whoever they have pledged their allegiance and their common sense and their ability to think to, on one side or the other. And I've never taken the time to stop and think about the three words that make up DEI and whether their positions make sense. What is DEI? Diversity. If you're someone who has an issue with diversity, okay. Equity, inclusivity. So many of us are living lives where we want to be included, where we want to be a part of something. Even those of us who want to be a part of the wrong thing, the destructive thing, whatever that is, I'm talking about anywhere in your life, whatever it is, you want to be included. So If you are against that, you are against the core of who you are as a human being. So where am I going with this? And how do I tie this into this point of reflection I am going through now in terms of service? What is service? Service can be defined, at least in my book, as serving another person, giving of ourselves to someone to fulfill a need, whatever that need may be. If you go out and you look for a homeless person and you feed them, you're serving. If you take the time to mentor someone, you're serving. If you take the time, if you're someone who believes in our Creator, and take the time to go to your church and be an usher or to share the word or to be a participant in a food pantry, you're serving. If you pick one person in your life or random people in your life to pick up the phone and call and say, how are you today? Do you need anything? Do you need to simply talk? Do you need someone to listen to you? You're serving. And when we talk about service, many people immediately pull back, withdraw. Many people believe that the term service means that they have to give up humongous parts of their day, of their time, or that they have to take on an overwhelming burden to serve. Now, don't get me wrong. There are types of service that are burdensome, and those are the ones that we choose to do. I often tell my pastor, I don't know how he does it. Everyone, including me, have gone to him and laid our heavy burdens upon him. And as a representative who has chosen to be a pastor and a representative on earth for our Creator, has chosen a path of absorbing the heaviness and the struggles of so many people around them and counseling them to a place of strength and resolve. If you ever think about being around someone who is routinely negative and allowing yourself to partake in as part of that person's sounding board, have you ever felt the transfer of energy as that person lays their burdens upon you and then they walk away? You've uplifted them, but now you're struggling because you've absorbed the negative energy. It takes a special person or a commitment to decide that you're going to be part of something bigger than yourself. And when we get more and more people that decide to serve, the unification of humankind as people of service results in strength and the ability to overcome. When you decide to serve without prejudice, you start crossing the divide of differences. You find that you can break down the walls of political ideological differences. You find that you can break down the walls of racial divides. You find that you can break down the walls of economic or socioeconomic classes. You find you can break down the walls of so many different prejudices and misunderstandings. But there's something else that happens, something that I learned when I started doing this podcast. And if I am counting correctly, this episode, as I speak to you, is the 239th episode of this podcast. That's a massive number to me when I remember when I started with one. When you set out on a journey to help someone, it takes on a life of its own. Sometimes we wake up, and I remember doing this, deciding that I wanted to serve. I'm not sure how. Or I wanted to serve more, not sure how. And thus just because of my sincerity in wanting to serve, it somehow manifested itself in a way for me to serve that I couldn't even imagine or think of on my own. The past few weeks for me have been a bit of a struggle. Two people I know, shockingly to me, died. One of them was a friend I met at random, when I was a videographer, and he and I just clicked, and we shot many big events together, Fashion in the Hudson, Gotham Hall, and I didn't even know until his wife posted on Facebook a tribute to him that he had passed on February 7th. And I'll take a moment to say a great and peaceful fellow that I was privileged to meet called Magic Mike, Michael Bunn. Rest in peace, buddy. And then there was a woman from my church, Betty Baker, who to us was living a private struggle. And so, since it was a private struggle, it was a surprise to us that she passed. Rest in peace, Betty. And as I looked at the families struggling with this, I recognized that they were uplifted because people around them took the time to comfort them, to take a moment out of their day to say, how can I uplift you? How can I help you get through this? 2 nights ago, I called a family member. His wife was just given a notice from the doctors that there's nothing else they can do, and she has been in hospital. This is someone who's been in hospital for years nonstop, not ever coming out. One thing after the other, even open heart surgery. There's a most recent surgery that the doctors told her they would have to amputate her leg or do some very invasive surgery to her leg because all of the arteries in her legs are blocked, and she has opted not to do the surgery. Her husband told me, which is my family member, her exact words were, I came into this world with 2 legs. I'm leaving with 2 legs. And I thought about his pain. He has been taking care of her tirelessly for years. He's been living a life where he's had almost no time to himself because he has dedicated his entire days to working, leaving work, going to be at his wife's bedside, leaving her bedside. And these are all distances away, these places, driving home, making a meal, going to sleep, or trying to go to sleep, getting a call from the hospital that she's not taking her medication, leaving his house, driving back to the hospital, convincing her to take her medication, driving back home, getting to bed, getting like 3 hours sleep, getting up and going back to work for years. Not months, not days, but years. Our ability to be selfless and coming across human beings like that gives me faith that there's hope for us as humankind. And when we see wrongs being done, we have the ability to make them right. We have the ability to change. We have the ability to affect change. How do we do that? We decide that we are going to serve. We decide that we're going to live a life of service. And to do that, we've got to decide that we are going to put aside race, creed, color, gender, that we're going to embrace diversity and equality and inclusivity. But the goal and the success of service is unity. It is a drug that can put us in a place of happiness, knowing that we help someone, regardless of the outcome. I've prayed for many people to heal, but they passed. I've prayed for many people to be healed, and they were healed. I've spent many hours, I remember when my mother passed, being there regardless of what. I've spent a lot of my time praying for people, speaking with people, supporting those who lost loved ones, and recognizing that if we want to heal this nation, if we want to remove the power of a few in Washington over the entire population of this land, then serving each other, defying the poison that they're selling, and serving each other, figuring out how we can help each other in a big or small way. Like I said, some of us do elaborate and time-consuming and life-consuming things to serve. And I think a lot of people get afraid when they see that because they assume that that's the only way to serve. But as a human being, encouraging each other to be accepting, mentoring someone who needs help, open conversations with those who are willing to, and even those who are not willing to, change their positions from one of prejudice to one of acceptance. Helping those who are hurt by policies made by our politicians, so that no matter the policies that they force upon us, we are victorious as a people because we're willing to stand together and to serve each other. One of the greatest joys you can feel is the joy of service. So why did I choose to have this conversation with you for this episode when there's so much going on in the news and in Washington and in our political system that I could have 10 episodes on? Because I'm recognizing that all that's going on, that's all the distractions. What we need to do is focus on the solutions. Focus on what we can do for each other as human beings to be successful. Focus on what we can do as human beings to each other to be kind, to uplift, to unite. Don't be so caught up in political ideologies and positions that we nurture hate, which is the opposite of serving each other as human beings. What I'm offering here is a different approach that can defeat the rhetoric and hateful and divisive nature of the aristocracy of Washington. Quite frankly, of the aristocracy has taken over many nations in this world that are causing divisiveness between us as human beings who came into this world as the same and who will leave this world as the same. I am happy that I chose this path. Being a podcaster and having this podcast and opening myself to the conversations, to the opinions, to the exhale of other human beings and absorbing that, I can tell you that doing this kind of podcast is not easy on the human soul. In order for me to speak with you and share these positions, I too absorb a lot of heavy energy. I don't want to say negative energy because when people unload on you, they're looking for relief. Being in touch with the media, being in touch with all that's going on in our world and in our political system is a heavy duty task. So how do I counter it to make sure that I am not absorbed by it in a negative way, that I become bitter or angry or can't see clearly anymore? I choose humanity and service to humankind above all. I serve my family as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a son, as a son-in-law. I serve my friends as brothers in friendship. I serve as my church. I serve as a mentor. I serve as this podcast to any and every you, not only calling you to stand with me, but being here to express as you so that many of you who have reached out to me identify with what I'm saying and feel uplifted and feel energized and feel, what should I say, a sense of purpose, and feel that you get direction from these conversations to do what you need to do to serve. I have friends of mine, some who have been on this show, some who are my greatest supporters, who are activists. They've decided to spend their entire life fighting the cause for people of color, for people who have been downtrodden, have been beaten, have been unfairly treated. You've heard me do podcast episodes about men who have been incarcerated for years, who are innocent, who were put there because of prejudices or rushed to judgment. There's so many ways you can serve that won't impact the rest of your lives and the time you take with your family, but actually might enrich your other relationships because of what you get out of serving. The next few weeks we will return to the episodes of what's going on in our lives and all the struggles and all the chaos around us. But I'm hoping this episode will give you a moment of pause, a moment of thought, and a moment of choice, whether it be in a little way, one phone call, one friend, one cause, one need, one letter, one prayer. Choose a way to serve and watch the difference it makes in your life and the lives of others. I thank you so much for the opportunity to always be a part of your lives. I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm so grateful for how you've embraced me. I wish you a great weekend and a great week ahead. And I'll leave you with 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3. If I speak in tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Please take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week ahead. And remember, take some time to take care of each other.